haven't learnt anything, so there's nothing I can teach you. I didn't go to a film school, I haven't been an assistant director. So, in fact, this is not going to be a lesson on the cinema, but rather a story about the cinema and on my relationship with the cinema as a spectator, a distributor, a producer, and a director. And I remember when I finished high school 30 years ago, after my vacation, I no longer had an excuse anymore. It was September or October 1972. I had to take a decision about what I was going to do. And I remember a conversation with a friend who was just about to start at university. He asked me what I wanted to do in life. And I replied, and I blushed when I said this, well, I would like to work in the cinema. And then he asked me what I'd like to do exactly, actor or director. And I became even redder and replied, both of them.
E io un po' arrossendo dissi, ma veramente io vorrei fare il cinema. E lui disse, vabbè, il cinema che cosa? Cioè l'attore, il regista. Io arrossendo ancora di più dissi, ma veramente tutte e due. Senz'altro nella mia
Undoubtedly, there are actors of my generation who are more talented than I am. But for the characters in the films I've directed so far, I am the best one for the part.
Io vengo dalla sinistra e credo che lo sappiano tutti, e siccome penso che solo i cretini non cambiano mai idea,
eccomi
io,
qua,
come ho
presente, parlava di me.
Sono sempre il protagonista dei film, ma
I'm always the protagonist in my own films. It was an accident at the beginning that I chose the name of Michel. In my first film, I directed it, and then, film after film, I kept the characteristics of this character with his quirks and obsessions, very intolerant with regard to the obsessions of others, and there was his passion for sweets, his fits of anger, an obsessive attention to language, telephone conversations, family lunches, the ball he was playing with.
Certa attenzione ossessiva al linguaggio, le telefonate, i pranzi in famiglia, la palletta con cui giocare a casa.
And then suddenly I started to play myself. In Caro Diario and April, my fictitious character disappeared. I became myself, and I speak in the first person. And this is one of my chemotherapy sessions, the treatment prescribed when you have a tumor. It was in 1991, and I was shooting with Angelo Babagalo, with a dictaphone and a cameraman. 2 years later, I decided to relate this experience, and I inserted this scene in my film, Journal Intime. I wanted to tell spectators, very directly, the story of my tumor. And when I meet spectators who say to me, it was nice this episode, I identified with you. But me too, I suffer from imaginary illnesses. I started to wonder why and for whom we make films. Sometimes I start to film without a film in mind. These public events, such as the demonstration of the 25th of April 1994 that we see in April, 4 years after, or these private shots, such as the chemotherapy session, become a part of a film. Sometimes nothing materializes and the work is unfinished.
17, 11 prima.
Beh, allora lo marchi tu.
No, io ho paura.
Perché?
Di nuovo, no, un gioco discreto, vai Silvio.
No, Imre Budavari, un giocatore ungherese, discreto, ma nulla di più. Lo marchi tu.
No, io ho paura.
Perché?
Sarebbe meno scoti.
Io credo che sia noioso
I think it must be boring for George Lucas to film Star Wars, even if I don't know if we can talk about filming. In any case, he is the director of his films. Somebody like him, with all that power, all that money and recognition, should be able to do what he wants. Take a DV camera and do a documentary on the death penalty. In fact, I should be really grateful because I'm not bored, and I think making this type of film must be really boring.
Io credo che sia molto noioso proprio fare quei film. Qui c'ho degli appunti.
I took notes as member of the jury, as if I was preparing for my high school exam. Tim Burton, who, by the way, is a really nice guy, said hello to us when he arrived this morning, but for the first time he didn't smile. And he said to us that he'd only slept 3 hours because he was too nervous. I went to the bathroom. The other stall was occupied by another member of the jury, and I reread the paragraphs I'd written on certain films to him, the ones I'd really liked. Luke Bondy took tranquilizers in order to sleep. Everybody dreamt last night. This is a meeting between 007 and Tim Burton, now exhausted, in the garden. And here we see Gong Li looking disgusted. Mira Sorvina, another member of the jury. I think that when a director starts out, he should know what he doesn't want from his team, because he runs the risk of getting caught up by professionalism, by routine, by certain ways of having the actors perform, or by a setting, or by the photographic director and his lighting, or the editor and his editing. I think that a director who's starting up should know what he wants from people with whom he works with. This is absolutely essential for a beginner.
Questo secondo me è una base di partenza importante.